I have 10:01, so let's go ahead and get started. My name is Lara Angel, and I'm with Mississippi State University with our Extension service in DeSoto County. I just wanted to welcome you today to our presentation on technology after you pass. And so we're going to learn about planning ahead. This is the second part in our series of Let's Talk Technology. Joy Anderson the other day presented computer housekeeping. And so today we're going to talk about technology, after you pass away, what happens to your technology? And so we're going to dive right into that today. But before we get into our presentation today about the technology, let's learn a little bit about some things that you need to consider and things that you need to know before of how to use Zoom. And so we're using Zoom today. And how do you use Zoom if you're unfamiliar with Zoom? This is a webinar style meeting, and so you do not have the capability to talk during this meeting unless we enable that. And so you will not get to talk and speak during the presentation unless we open up your microphone. But how you can speak during the presentation is there's two things at the bottom that you can do. You can hover around at the bottom of your screen. You can chat and answer questions in the chat box. That when I ask you a question, you can put your comments in the chat box. And then if you have a question during the presentation, you can actually ask the question in the question answer box. So if you want something addressed and answered during the presentation, I will attempt to do that. Just make sure that you put your question in the question box, the question answer box. And if you have a comment, you can put that in the chat box. And so there's also a hand button if you want to raise your hand. To make sure that you want to tell us something, we can enable the microphone for you to do that by raising your hand. So if you have any problems, you can either put them in the chat box, or if you have technical issues, we can get you in touch with Becca Sparks or Steve Hankins. So make sure that your computer speakers are turned on and that you can hear us, and make sure that you know that you are muted during this. But let's get started. Technology after you die or after you pass. I want you to the first question I have for you is, I want you to raise your hand if you have a social media account. And so think about the different things that you have. Does anybody have a social media account? It could be Facebook, Google+, Twitter, Instagram, Pinterest, LinkedIn, Snapchat, any of those things. So take just a minute and raise your hand if you have a social media account. I know personally I have several, and then I control some for the office. So some of my favorites that I use on a regular basis are Google and Facebook, but I also have some other accounts. So several of you have accounts. So if you've raised your hand, make sure that you know today that we're just providing you with advice. We are not experts by any means, and we are not legal advice. We're just trying to give you some information today about your social media accounts so that you can prepare your accounts after you pass away. And so we're going to talk about passwords today and social media. Let's continue on. The first one that we're going to talk about today is Facebook. Each day, nearly 8,000 Facebook users pass away and die in any given day. So what happens to that account once you pass? I know that personally, I have received friend requests from people that have already passed away. And so that's kind of unnerving. And so if you personally do not want to be leaving friend requests after you pass away, or you don't want funky things happening with your account once you pass away, it's a great idea to take time now to take your account and to create a legacy contact. And so with Facebook, they have the option that you can create a legacy account or a legacy contact so that your account can become memorialized once you pass away. And so what you're basically doing is you're telling someone else in your life that you want them to either deactivate your account once you pass away or memorialize your account. And so you would have to add that person onto your account. And basically, after this, at the end of the presentation, I can walk you through this and show you on Facebook and show you live how to do it. But basically what you're doing is you're going into your account settings under the options and under your management settings and your side of that, and you're adding a legacy contact. And I added my husband as my legacy contact, and you can tell it, you can tell Facebook if you want your stuff deactivated or if you want it memorialized. And so you're giving control of that person once you pass. And so that is a great option. So what does your Facebook account look like once you once it's been memorialized? This is an account that's been memorialized. And so basically people can add tributes to that wall on Facebook, but they can leave messages on the wall for the family members and for you if once you've passed. So that's what your account would look like. So there's that option of memorializing your account, or you can actually, the legacy person can completely remove you from Facebook, so that if somebody typed your name into the search bar, you're not going to come up. This person, their account was memorialized, so you could still search for them and a page would come up with their name. And so once the account's memorialized, you would not actually get friend requests or anything like that from the person that passed. Keep in mind that these are just a few social media platforms that we're going to be talking about today. And there is no law in place that tells these companies that have these social media platforms, there's no law that's in place that, tells us, exactly what should happen to these accounts once people pass or how they should be handled. And so it's up to you right now as to what you want to do with your account. If you have Twitter, Twitter's another social media platform that you might have. And so with Twitter, you cannot create a legacy contact person. Whoever is in charge of your estate or a family member, they have to go online on Twitter and they have to inform Twitter that you have passed. And so it has to be an immediate family member or a guardian. And so they have to basically tell Twitter that you've passed, and then Twitter will remove the account from their system. And so you have to give information to prove that you have passed for Twitter to remove it and to remove the account. You might have Instagram. I have Instagram, and it's a very I don't use it very often, but it is something. It is an account that I have. And Instagram is owned by Facebook. They're kind of, they carry a lot of the same similarities with how they are used. And Instagram, you can, it operates a lot like Facebook. So you can designate with Instagram, you can go in there and use it a lot like Facebook. And you can tell it about a legacy. You do have to provide whoever, once you've passed, that person does have to prove that the person has deceased, and so they have to provide like probably an obituary or a proof of death certificate of some sort, and you upload that and send that to Instagram. So in order to memorialize the account on Instagram, you have to tell Instagram that they passed through a link. And so same thing with Pinterest. With Pinterest, they ask more questions on the person once they've passed, and actually you email Pinterest. You send an email if you're trying to get rid of or memorialize somebody's account. You send an email to care@pinterest.com, and you have to include all that information that's there on the list. They need to know the name, the deceased person's full name, your name, the email of that person that's deceased, that was attached to the Pinterest account, the Pinterest username, of who you're trying to remove off Pinterest, proof of their death. So you would need either a death certificate or an obituary, and then your proof of your relationship to that person. So that's something that you might want to consider is Pinterest, and making sure that in your last will and testament, you know, if you're collecting information about your accounts, your family members need to know this information so that they could, you know, fill out the form for Pinterest. I don't know how many emails that you have, but, you know, you need to know which email account was associated with that Pinterest. And the same thing probably for Facebook and some of these others like Twitter and Instagram. This is if you're in Pinterest, if you go to Pinterest, you're actually looking under the account settings. And so this is what a Pinterest looks like when you pull it up. And so you're clicking on account settings, and then you're making an account change. And then you're clicking down here on account changes. And then that in there is you can deactivate the account, or you could, that's how the person that once you pass, they would deactivate the account if they had your password, or you can designate somebody in Pinterest. LinkedIn, this is a professional organization, and I'm not sure if any of you have LinkedIn, but it's a social media platform that you can use. And with LinkedIn, there's a form that you complete once someone has passed, and they have to know the person's name, you know, their URL, their email address, the death, the most, you know, what company they worked for, you know, they need an obituary and your relationship to them. So basically they're trying to prove that the person really passed away, and who you are and why you want them removed off of their social networking site. Snapchat, this is another one that you might have. Something about Snapchat is Snapchat automatically deactivates someone's account if it's inactive for 30 days, and then it will delete. And so if someone has Snapchat and it just goes inactive for, you know, 30 days, they're automatically going to delete it. So basically, you don't have to do anything if someone has a Snapchat account. Snapchat kind of internally permanently deletes people once 30 days if they've not used the account. If you log on, you know, on day 29 during an being inactive for 29 days, at day 29, if you log into Snapchat, and that will reactivate your account, and 30 days will start over again. So if it's inactive for 30 days, then it will deactivate the account with Snapchat. So basically, if someone had Snapchat, if they didn't use it or touch it for 30 days, it would deactivate. Google Plus, this is one that I have. A lot of my things are connected through Google Plus. I have my calendar through Google Plus. I have an email through Google Plus. A lot of things use my Google email and my Google password. And it's all because Google is all interconnected and intertwined into things. And so when you can designate someone in Google, you can designate someone that once your account is inactive for a certain period of time, then that person is notified that you are inactive. And so that person then could inactivate your account, and they would fill out a form that it's inactive. And so with mine, you can't really see this very clearly, but I can show you this in a minute. So I have, basically I have told Google that I have made a plan for my account and I want it deleted, you know, and I want to, once it's inactive, then my spouse, I set my husband up as that person. He can go in, and once it's inactive, I think it's for like a year, then he could go in and he could remove it, and he could tell Google that I passed away. But he would get a notification. Google is going to notify him if my account is inactive, and then he would go on and tell them that I had passed, or if I was no longer wanting to use Google. And so they have it's called an inactivity manager. And so that's how someone could inactivate a Google account to tell someone that they passed. So if you have somebody that you trust in your family, you could add them to your Google account and add them as your inactive account manager, so that if you didn't send emails for a while and you didn't get on to anything that was connected to Google, then they would inactivate your account. I want you guys right now to take a minute and comment in the chat box. Do you feel confident now and maybe possibly designating someone in your family or a legacy person on your social media? Do you feel like you could do that now? So in the chat box, comment yes or no if you feel confident that you could go do that. And if you don't, we can do a hands-on, and I can show you my Facebook account to show you that information. This is all about being prepared and making sure that you are prepared and that you have people designated. It's a good idea to do this so that you're protecting yourself and your loved ones. And this is just a part of estate planning. I'm sorry, my voice is cutting in and out. Hopefully not. We're almost finished. Okay, and so now I want you guys to comment in the chat box. Can you deactivate an account for someone? So if someone in your family, could you be that legacy person for someone? So could you navigate how to deactivate someone's Pinterest account or someone's Facebook if they told you? Okay, good deal. Okay, and so passwords, we all have passwords. What do we do with our passwords? And that's a good question. How do you have your passwords protected? And the passwords are something that you might want to consider as passwords. And so you first could leave your password with someone that you love, and they could, help deactivate your accounts or, delete your accounts once you've passed. You could print your passwords off or write them down in a book and keep them in your safe. And that's an option. You could put your passwords in your will that you have. And so the thing with those last two options or any of these options is making sure that, at the end of life that you have your password information up to date. And so you might be thinking, why would my family need my password? There might be some important documentation that they need to, maybe your electricity bill is paid for online, and, the estate might need to go on and pay your, electricity bill, or they might need to figure out how to deactivate that account after you've passed. And so they would need to know the password, username, your password and your username for that account. And then you could use a password manager. I know lots of apps on your phone can become a password. You can download an app and have a password manager. But whatever option you choose to keep your password safe, make sure that you keep it up to date. And you have to find your own way of keeping that password safe and making sure that your family members, if you're passing it on to a family member, if you want them to be able to access your information later, they need to know that password. My mom the other day brought up about her iCloud account. And after, she passed, what was she going, all her pictures and videos are saved into the cloud. And so, and I was like, well, eventually, estate planning wise, that account is tied to a credit card. And if you didn't pay your bill, and there was no money there, then we would figure out something. And she's like, we need a plan before that. And so we have to navigate iCloud. I've got to figure that one out, is how to make sure that we can access her pictures and videos that she wants to save, because that's how she has it all backed up, is on the cloud. And so I would need to know her username and password to her Apple iCloud account. And we would need to make sure that there was a credit card on there that would still work if she passed away. So that's something that you might need to consider is, those accounts that you have that are in the cloud, do people have the password to get that information? Or do they even know that you have that, that account and would they want that information? Or would you want them to have that information? There might be some things that you don't want your family to know about. And so you need to decide that now instead of later. So comment in the chat box, what is your game plan for your passwords? So of those options on the page before, can you comment in the chat box what your game plan for those passwords would be? Are you going to leave them with someone? Are you going to lock them up in a safe? Do you have an app on your phone that's a password, manager on your phone? Or are you going to put it in your will? Can you comment in the chat box what you think that you would do with your passwords? And if you don't know yet, you could put that you don't know. Okay, I talk about my mom, and she gets on here. I didn't realize she was joining us today. She says that she feels confident that she will select a daughter and feel like that she could do this for someone. So she's saying that she feels like that she could, she could tell me or my sister that we could store her passwords and keep them safe and handle it. Pat says that she has a book locked in a safe. That's a great option. Having that person is a great option. And then someone else says that they have it in a notebook on the computer. Someone has their passwords on a phone. Someone has them in an address book. Someone has them in a small notebook. Those are all great options. Just make sure someone in your family that you want to know that information, make sure that they know what it is, because the last thing you want is for them to come over and clean your desk off and then throw your password book away. So make sure that your family members know what that information is. I taught this class at a library a few months ago, and someone suggested that they had their passwords on an Excel spreadsheet. And so I thought that was kind of, it was all digital and it was on an Excel spreadsheet. And then she had the workbook on Excel. She had it protected with a password. And so she had like one password that protected the Excel spreadsheet so that no one could just hack into it. So that might be an option for you that we didn't discuss. But it looks like you guys all have kind of a game plan, but just making sure that your family members are aware of that game plan would be key. So that making sure that everything is safe. And so someone said, what if unless something crashes? And so yes, have a backup plan. And so make sure that you have your plan in place, but then have a backup plan in place and make sure that everybody knows what your plan is. We can try to prepare all day, but sometimes we don't know how to handle the unexpected until it happens. And so I think I have a couple more slides. I can get my computer to work. So data and equipment, what to do about your data. I mentioned that about photos and videos and my mom about her stuff on iCloud. But what do you want to actually happen into your devices? We've all got phones. We've got iPads, tablets. We have desktops and laptops. What do you want to happen with your actual equipment that you have and that data? If you think your family would want, your computer hard drive and the information that you have saved on that or that you have saved in the cloud, then you would want, maybe in your will to say that what you want done with your data. If you want your family to, donate your equipment or to destroy it, you might want your equipment hard drives. You might want them restored to factory settings or, all the information deleted off of there. And so you would want maybe to include that information in your will or make sure that your family members know what you want to happen with your equipment and with your data, because we all have the devices. I know just in my house, me and my husband both have an iPad and, we've got phones and, he's got, laptops and We have, I think, even a computer that's stored in a closet that we no longer use. But we need to be able to tell someone what to do with that equipment, and what to do with it. And so have a game plan about your equipment and your data as to, what you want others to have access to, or, do you want them to have it or do you want them to destroy it? Don't forget about your external hard drives and your jump drives. So we have lots of information that, might be sensitive information that we have on those devices, and it's personal information, and you want to make sure that you are protected and that your family is protected. And so those are just things to consider, um, to consider those before, something happens, to your devices. And so those are just some things. So I'm going to take a minute, some final considerations that you might want to think about. Keep in mind that this information today, I'm not authority at all. This is just meant to be informative today. Consult your attorney or your lawyer. There are some options there listed there that you could consider. Joy, in the chat box, can you make sure that the link to the social media, you can't take it with you, gets linked there? There's a publication that we have with all the information that we discussed today. So Joy's going to put that in the comment box, in the chat box. And so she put that in the comment box. You can look at that after the presentation today. And I'll also be emailing you a copy of that. But that's just some information that you can look over. And so that's information that is there for you. But make sure that you're prepared and that you have a game plan, and make sure that you share that with others. And so, like I said, I'm not authority at all, and there is no laws currently in place for any of this. And so make sure that you just have it documented and written down, and you discuss it with your lawyer or your attorney of what your wishes are. So I want to thank you guys for coming today. And before I wanted to do a hands-on thing to make sure that everybody was comfortable before I get you guys off. I've got a couple more things. In the chat box, could you comment at least one strategy, like one thing that you learned today that you will use if you leave your login information to a loved one after you pass away? So give me a comment of one strategy that we just discussed, like of something that you will leave your login. Are you going to leave them your passwords? Are you going to, what are you going to do? What are you going to do with the things that you learned today? So we have how to and why closing social media. Someone said that, their son's going to be their legacy person. Someone liked the idea of the Excel spreadsheet, leaving the passwords on that. Someone said they're going to keep making their old-fashioned address book more visible and make sure that it's updated. Yeah, keeping it updated and making sure that you have a plan for your data and your equipment. So those are all good things that you've learned today. And then the last thing, so hands-on, I'm going to stop my screen sharing right here, and I'm going to show you, because I know most of you have Facebook. I'm going to stop sharing this screen, and then I'm going to share my computer screen. So let me make sure that I'm sharing the screen. I'm going to share. I wanted to share. Bear with me just a minute. I was trying to share my Facebook page, and I seeing it up here. There it is. Okay, so this is, can you guys see my Facebook page now? You can see my Facebook page. So here's my Facebook page. If you're on Facebook, if you look at the top, there's this arrow button up at the top, the upside down arrow button. And so what you're going to do is you're going to go into your settings section. And then there is the section that says memorialize. If you see under general account settings, it's got my name, my username, my contact, and then it's got the tab that says memorialize settings. You click on that. And so as you see right here, I have added my husband as my legacy contact. And so you can see that right there. And then you can decide to allow your legacy person to download a copy of what's shared on Facebook. And so currently I have that clicked. But you know, I might decide I don't want him to download all my stuff. And so I would unclick that. And then you can request, there's an option there that you can request for your account to be deleted after you pass. And so those are all options. And once you designate a legacy person, it'll send them an email and notify them that, hey, Lara Angel added you as your legacy contact. And so my husband was like, why are you doing that? And so I was just like, I'm trying to be prepared. And so that is something that you can do. Let's see, I was going to show you Google too. Google's another one that I use a lot. So if you're on Google, like I'm clicking on my account information. And so I'm going to move you guys so I can see it. So I'm going to manage my Google account is the option. And so you're going to go down under, I think it's under privacy and personalization. I'm going to manage my data and my personalization. And I'm going to scroll down until I see make a plan for my account, to download, delete, and make a plan for my data. And so you can click that button and you can make a plan. And so my current plan is that after 18 months of inactivity, it's going to notify my contact. And so it has that information there in there. It's going to notify and share with, you can share up to 10 people. You know, I could put 10 people's people's names here in Google that would be notified if my account was inactive for 18 months. And so they would then have that opportunity to say if I had passed or if I was still alive. Anyways, so those were the two things I was going to share. Are there any other questions or things that you guys would like to see or know about for social media? You can put it in the comment box or raise your hand and you could ask your question if you wanted to do that. Is there any other questions or comments that you guys have? I really appreciate everyone coming today and being with us. Hopefully I've not bored you too much or went too fast. And hopefully I've provided you with some information for things to consider. So
we will be sending a follow-up email. Is that correct?
yes, we will.
A evaluation, and we hope that you'll fill out the evaluation, as well as we'll also send the link again to the publication for you to make sure you got that.
And if you're on your phone, you might not be able to see the chat box. I don't know if you're on your phone or not, and that's why you might not be able to see your chat box. So I'm sorry if you didn't get to see everybody's comments, but you guys all did great at participating today, and we really appreciate you coming in today to our Zoom webinar. If nobody has any comments or questions, we're going to sign off here and say goodbye, and we hope that you join us again for a program another time, the next time that we offer something. So make sure that if you're on Facebook, you like our DeSoto County Extension Office Facebook page and DeSoto County 4-H to stay up to date with programs and things that we have going on virtually. You also, if you do not currently receive our newsletter, you can get put on our newsletter list. We have a newsletter right now that's going out monthly that crosses all programmatic areas, and you can get information that way through the snail mail system through our U.S. Postal Service. And so we do have a newsletter, and if you're not on our newsletter list, make sure that you, when you get your evaluation, you tell me that you want to, if you want to be added to it. But thank you guys so much. We'll see you later. Y'all have a great day.